All right, welcome back. Now, the latest lockdown of 5 counties, including the nation's capital, has further exacerbated an already difficult situation for those in the entertainment industry. With restaurants closed, big gatherings banned, revenue streams for countless artists dried up. In fact, according to a HEVA study done last year, 97% of individuals working in the creative and cultural industries here in Kenya saw their businesses affected directly by the pandemic slowdown. Well, joining me to share their experiences are June Gachui, a singer, a radio presenter, and intellectual property and entertainment lawyer, as well as Ndeda, who is a performing artist. Thank you both for joining me this evening. Let me start with you, June, to just kind of paint a picture on how bad it has gotten for many artists. I mean, it's a year since the pandemic hit, and now they're kind of going through the second blow, at least for the ones who are in the 5-county radius. But what has the situation been like for most artists now?
Well, thanks, first of all, for having us and for shining a light on this issue. The picture is bleak, let's put it that way. As you rightly say, it's been a year, and I think one thing that we forget about this particular industry is that the effect was immediate. As soon as the pandemic and the first shutdown happened, jobs were lost immediately. It wasn't even that there's a notice period like for most employed or salaried individuals, because we are working in what we call a gig economy. So you're sort of like surviving per gig, per day, and on a very short contract sort of term. And so the immediate effect was something that was not foreseen. I mean, even if you're going to lose an employed job, you sort of have a notice period to sort of pick up the pieces and make alternative arrangements. And I think that's the first thing. Secondly was just the fact that we relied so heavily on third parties for our art to have a place for us to execute it, to act it out. So corporates who had events, launches of their products, started to cut back almost immediately on their advertising spend. We also saw things like the places that we would go and rehearse and just jam at a restaurant or at a bar or a hotel would just not be able to pay the bill because they were relying on people coming in. So the sort of domino effect was so immediate that it took us a while to catch our breath. And I think the other thing for me that I noticed very, very immediately within our ecosystem, we had been working on rehearsals for some live concerts. And when we do that, I would produce a live concert, but my ecosystem that allows me to implement and put this concert together is about 30 to 40 people. And immediately they were all relying on the income that we were expecting if the event had taken place. So it's been bleak, Victoria, I won't lie. And I think we've all heard the complaints, and the ability for us to sort of have a moment to catch our breaths and re-innovate and pivot has been difficult because it's not something that we've been prepared for. It's COVID now, it could be something later. And I think for me, the biggest question is how do we make sure that we're better equipped, better prepared for the future? How do we make sure we have savings that we can tap into? So those are just a few of the thoughts and things that I've observed within my own experience and my ecosystem. But we need to find a better way to deal with it because it's not wonderful.
Certainly. And, we'll be talking about how other artists have become innovative, and trying to adapt to the changes, like you said, how to be crisis ready, because this is not going to be the last one that we face. Nick, let me bring you in. You have acted in over 50 stage plays. You've acted in TV shows. But how have things changed? Because that's all been disrupted, in terms of how you, as a performing artist, now interact with your audience.
Yes, you're right on that, Victoria. The thing is, for instance, there was a play that I wrote last 2 months ago, and we were set to stage the play this month. It was actually meant to be the first play staged at the National Theatre since COVID happened. And we were having rehearsals, and then when the president made the announcement, everything had to come to a halt. The play's not going to be on. We don't know when we're going to do it. So that put us all in limbo. And as artists, in fact, at the theater, we were so excited we're so excited to finally be back in the space, ready to, do the thing that we love to do so much, perform in a space to a crowd. But then, because of COVID, that didn't happen. There was a movie I auditioned for, and I was very excited about it. And then also because of the lockdown, I got word that as much as the audition went well, they're not filming in Kenya anymore because of the situation. So it was such a good time to be an artist, but then because of the situation that we have going on, everything looks so bleak. And honestly, for me, I'm trying to stay as positive as possible and tell myself that things are going to get better, because right now it's really tough. It's really tough for artists.
Nick, when you say tough, when you say the play was canceled or the movie's no longer happening, in a practical sense, what does that mean for an artist? I remember seeing a video of another artist here in Kenya who said, they had gone for the Unlock Our Country press conference earlier this week, got arrested, got back home, and found her house was locked because she hadn't paid rent. Okay, she was evicted, and she said it's been difficult making ends meet. When you're talking about how tough it is, what does that look like in a practical sense?
Oh, to be honest, it's really, because when situations like these happen, it's not something anyone foresaw. But when it hits, the reality of it, it's like a ton of bricks. If you're the sort of person who's always depending on the next gig to make sure that everything is going to be okay, pay your bills, etc., which is what a lot of artists, that's how a lot of us operate. So when this happens, it's literally, you don't know when you're going to get the next job, because you don't know when the jobs are going to even be available. So it's by tough, I really mean it's one of those moments where you really have to take a step back and be like, now you need to evaluate, find a plan, find a side hustle that you can do, which obviously is also very difficult in this period. So when I say tough, Victoria, I really just mean, it is hard out here.
Absolutely. And June, let me come to you. In terms of what artists are doing now, we've seen a few in terms of the musicians and the singers do virtual experiences, and they're pivoting into that digital platform. Has that helped in terms of bringing in revenues? I know it pales in comparison to what they used to bring in before, but what more are other artists doing now?
Well, you're right. It does pale in comparison. Because let's speak about it in practical terms. What is the digital space offering us? It's offering us potentially larger, but the structure or setup of that virtual experience also comes at a cost. If I'm going to make sure, especially for a musician, if I'm going to make sure that my audio is clean and it's something that people can enjoy and is fitting on the brand, then I do have to invest. And we're talking about a time when even that money is not available. We're also talking about a very saturated space. We are trying to that artists, the rest of the continent in the West are also trying to. So what is our unique selling proposition? What is different about us? And who are we selling to? Our audience would be happy to come for a show, but we're all worried about the current pandemic. So what price point would be acceptable and would be manageable even for our audiences? Because we're all in the same boat. The people who've been supporting us for all these years, we're extremely grateful, but we also realize that they have their own families to feed and their own situations. So we struggle to find, is it 500 bob, whereas a real ticket would have been 2,000 bob for a physical event. And then if people don't contribute, what does that mean? Do you have a full band, or do you just pick up your guitar and sing? What does that mean? So I think that the digital space has been leveraged. I think we're a ways away yet, but I do think that we started to see some glimmers of light from the point of view of connecting with your fan base and generating a bigger fan base and being able to get feedback and get to have your audience know you a little bit more. So I've seen a lot of people do lives where they just talk say, listen, I've had a really difficult day today, so I'm going to just sing. And then before you know it, it's 10 people on the live, 20 people, 30 people, and so on and so forth. But how many times can we do that? How many times can we do that without having to give it for free as a blessing to the audience and your fans? Because at the end of the day, you still need to pay your bills. So the digital space is there. We're learning as we go ahead. And I don't think all of us figured it out 100%. And those who have, to be very honest, have had corporate backing. The ones that we would speak about have had a really brilliant album launch, for example, but it's had some corporate sponsorship in kind behind it. Not everybody can access that. The majority cannot. Yeah.
Absolutely. You know, Nick, I have to ask this because June mentioned, yes, you have the digital platform, but everyone is online. Everyone is there. So the competition is that much higher in terms of how unique you are and how to stay relevant. So for you, who's a performing artist, how do you stay relevant? And have you tried to use that space and that platform to keep yourself interacting with your audience?
Yes, that's a really good question, Victoria. Oh yeah, and shout outs to June. Always great to see you. It's always great to hang out with you, June. What I've been doing, and a couple of other actors have actually also been trying this out, is we do monologues. Like I do monologues and I post them on my Instagram. Check it out at Ndeda. Why not? You know, the good thing, like June said, the feedback comes through. It's very instant. It serves as a connection. At least your fans get to see you still doing some form of what you love to do. Like June mentioned, the monetary aspect, though, that's what's not there. The most that we're doing right now is at least giving something to our fans to show them that, you know, we're trying to do something to show you that we're still in it. We're still committed to the craft, and we still want to entertain. So a lot of actors are doing some very cool things on Instagram, like short plays, even like 5 to 10 minute plays. You host them, and you know, if you're on Instagram at that time, you get to watch it and give your feedback. That's currently what we're running with. Just trying to figure out how to make money off of it, because yeah, bills have to be paid, right?
Right, trying to monetize your art is the tricky bit. And you know, June, we know last year the government had committed 100 million shillings in terms of a stimulus package of sorts to artists, musicians, actors. And you know, did that kind of help in a way? But it also kind of brought up the whole issue of there not being social protection in the first place for those who operate in the arts. So how much of a challenge has that been, even pre-COVID-19?
Yeah, I think that was a start. For me, I think the biggest win, and I talked about how it was distributed and what the impact was, and who the beneficiaries were. I saw a few people sort of acknowledge receipt. Remember, there was the various sectors of art form. So there was the film guys who were able to get some monies distributed to them through the Kenya Film Commission. There was also the Kenya Culture that were handling actors, I think the choreographers and the dancers. There was also the PPMC that was handling the musicians and the DJs and so on and so forth. But I think for me, this was one of the first times we'd heard the government acknowledging our industry. And I think that you know, given the society, given how our industry has progressed over the years, the formal structure and acknowledgement of it by putting this money aside was a win. It was definitely a start. I don't think it reached everybody, and I don't think the intention for it to reach everybody was there just because it wasn't enough money. But I do think it's something that was hopefully something that could be a recurring thing. And you talk about the social welfare aspect, because when you're a gig economy worker, you don't necessarily access healthcare, insurance covers. You don't necessarily have access to loans and bank facilities that require you to have security and collateral. And so there has to be more other than just dishing out cash. Even you mentioned the Unlock Our Country, the tag I see at the end of almost all the posters, we want to get back to work. And I think that's a positive takeaway, because we're not asking for hand-me-downs. People are talented. People just need the opportunity to apply their creative abilities and look at the business aspect and combine that with, okay, I have a family, so I do need to save for a rainy day. It's ironic, it's raining right now. But the point is, at the end of the day, that 100 million was a seed. And so what are we then doing? Able to get that to grow and not wait for a crisis to then have to start try and find a solution. So for me, my prayer and my hope is that we are able to engage with government even further to find a more longer lasting solution. So we're not always Serikali's idea. These are very intelligent, very talented individuals who want to work to earn a living. But we have to recognize that this particular industry does not operate the way the legal profession does, nor does it operate the way architects do. So can we carve out our own way of doing things and make that sustainable with the help of our government in an enabling environment?
Certainly. And Nick, let me come to you and get the last word from you in terms of, what do you see the future of entertainment looking like in the age of COVID-19? And I'm very deliberate with that age of COVID-19 because this is not going away anytime soon. June alluded to the fact that you need to have some form of risk management as an artist and working in the gig economy. But from where you sit, what do you think it will look like?
Here's the thing, Victoria, it's definitely woken us up. It's opened a lot of people's eyes to things that maybe we took for granted or even just chose to ignore. But I feel that it's about adaptability, all right? So we have to find ways to adapt to the situation, become more innovative in how we craft our performances. I remember one of the challenges, even when I was writing my latest script, was I was trying to find a way to make sure that the characters on stage will be socially distant, without making it seem obvious that that's what we're trying to do. So it's just little things like those. Situations like these, unfortunately, or maybe it's fortunately, I don't know, it forces us to become more innovative, think outside the box, and find a more sustainable way to do what we do and still survive. So tough task ahead, but it's mad. We're going to be able to find a way through it, I believe.
Certainly tough, but not impossible. Thank you so much, Nick and June, for your insights. And I hope that the industry comes back to a roaring revival, if you will. We need the arts because it's an escape of sorts for us, especially during a very tough time like this. Once again, thank you so much. Keep the conversation going on social media, #CitizenWeekend. That does it for the broadcast. I'm Victoria Rubediri. Thank you for watching. Our sign language interpreter tonight has been Joki Shege. One Love is coming up next. Good night.